But yeah, spoilers, Bulgaria's probably gonna lose this one. I don't think I have ever seen the AI manage to win here. Not in the current version anyways, or any of the current patches. They used to be able to a long time ago, but it's been a while since I have seen that happen. And now, both our divisions are in place, so you guys can F off. Most our contracts are done. Let's see here. The Modern Art of War. I think that's our best bet for our next one. And there's one book that every man who wants to become an officer in the army of the Reich must read. Clausewitz Art of War. If we put our best military theorists on the subject, they can adapt the still applicable principles from the centuries-old book to the requirements of modern warfare. More army experience, less a cost reduction for a single land doctrine. Very good job indeed. Now, Spirit of the Army. Professional Officer Corps. That's my choice there. Now, let's lower the speed a little. Focus our efforts over here. Okay. Can we break through here? They have a railway junction right at that point. If I could break through, take that, we could once again swing around for Alicante. Then those guys in Cartagena would be isolated. And they'd start running out of supplies, so I could use that to hit them and wipe them out. We'd have this front secured. We could start creeping north. In other news, however, the Ottomans have decided to turn this three-front war into a four-front war by declaring war on Bulgaria. They seem to do that a lot, but it never seems to really have any impact on the war, oddly enough. What might have an impact on the world is this standoff in America we have going on. A tense standoff has erupted in the United States, as the elected president, Reed, fled to the city of Chicago after being forcibly removed from his position by General Douglas MacArthur. From Chicago, Reed's supporters have declared MacArthur's government illegitimate, as have the Southern supporters of Huey Long, based in Baton Rouge, and the Pacific governors under the leadership of Governor Frank Merriam all have been given a deadline by General MacArthur of 30 days to stand down or face arrest and execution. Considering all sides are rapidly raising forces, the idea that America seems headed into a second civil war seems almost certain. Indeed it does. That's the other civil war that happens. And because one of the extremist factions took power, rather than the coalition guy who runs on a coalition ticket between the Democratic and Republican parties, since one of the extremist factions took power rather than him, MacArthur nopes right out of there and uses military force to remove everyone from power and declare a dictatorship. Which means the eastern state, which means the states over here in the Pacific, they also secede, based off of the notion that America's now a dictatorship, and so we are the last bastion of democracy, as their reasoning. Makes a degree of sense, I suppose. Free military factories now. Infantry equipment gets them all. Machine tools is done. Now, we'll do concentrated industry number 2. Elections of 1937. Now they, the German people, will elect their representative to the Reichstag. The elections have been tightly fought and the results awaited with much anticipation. The fate of several parties, and of course the Kaiserreich itself, could be decided today. If the Social Democrats manage to secure enough votes, the realist wing of the Social Liberal FVP will form a coalition with them. Another possibility would be a coalition of nearly all liberal and bourgeois parties. NLP, FVP, and Bavarian Splinter Party BVP against the predominance of the DKP, led by the beloved Lion of Africa, Paul von Littlevorbeck. Or the DKP members could just continue their comfortable majority. Yeah. So, Paul von Littlevorbeck is an interesting figure. He's what today you would definitely call a racist prick. He's not exactly a nice guy, but as far as strategy goes, he was an absolute genius. The guy managed to, just with the troops and resources he had in Germany's colony in Southwest Africa. I'm not sure what country that would be in the modern day, but it's somewhere in the region of the South African border. But I'm afraid African countries and geography aren't exactly my speciality, and the further south you go, the less I know. There's only a handful I can name, but yeah, he was an absolute genius just with those limited resources. No supplies or shipments or anything from Germany proper. He managed to tie down the Allies' forces fighting a guerrilla war for the entire length of World War I, just with what he had on hand. Which is absolutely incredible when you think about it. But as for who wins, authoritarian Democrats win again, I think. And a new Reichschancellor. Under the Constitution, there is no formal government in this Kaiserreich. The Kaiser appoints a person of his liking to the post of Chancellor, who then fills the state secretary posts of the Reichsleitung, the Reich administration. Even though the DKP defended their Reichstag majority in the elections, this does not mean the Kaiser has to keep Franz von Papen. What shall we do? We'll keep him. We'll keep him. Going to... get our medium tank person in there. Once I get back up to 100 political power, I'm going to do partial mobilization, I think. I don't necessarily need to, but it will get rid of some of the debuffs we have from sticking on our current status. Although, it doesn't make a lot of logical sense that you're able to mobilize for infinite periods of time without penalties or anything. I appreciate it from a player perspective, that we don't have to consider length of time mobilized or societal unrest or whatever, but it's still highly illogical. Now, let's see if we can't crack this particular nut. Would be a nice one to be able to get off the board, as it were. Got some support from the Spanish. America. Is your civil war going to go civil warring anytime soon? Because it doesn't seem to be. And I'm not sure why. Very bizarre, that. Oh well. Okay, almost, and they have now been overrun. Excellent. Now, let me see here. Let's lend our assistance up north. Make as many breakthroughs as we can. And effectively. Oh, maybe no. Tip to play Germany and Kaiserreich? Eh. Sure, why not? I'm just sort of having fun is my main thing. And yes, removing Black Monday, I am working on that to a degree. Right now, I am. Let's see. I still have to get through some stuff and all, but I'm on that path. While fighting in Spain. Exclusively fighting the CNTFAI, mind you, because my sole objective to being down here is to make sure Spain does not turn red. I have seen plenty of Kaiserreich games where I was doing something else, and it's basically a given, I think, that if Spain turns red, then the war with the Internationale is basically, I think, about 90% guaranteed Germany loses. I think of all the games that I have seen, most of these with me playing is like China or whatever, if Spain is red, then I've only seen Germany win that war one time out of more than 100 games. So yeah, it makes things a little difficult. I'll tell you who has already turned red on me. Norway. Oh, definitely. They're definitely the bigger threat. The thing with Spain, I think, is that it gives them more manpower, so they can afford to take more losses and might potentially have the troops to just bludgeon their way through the German border. Is, I believe, the main thing with that. Unfortunately, I am god-awful with naval invasions. Oh, would you look at that? America finally decided it was Civil War time. They've been sitting around just staring at each other for a while. Yeah. Hold on a second. In my game, Jack Reed won the election and became president of the United States. As a result, it is a four-way civil war. Which basically means there is zero chance of the federal government winning. At all. Oh yeah, Canada is pink. I didn't notice that because, to be honest, I've never played as Canada. Never ever. I'll have to at some point, or America, but bit of a difficult proposition, given that I'm only average at Hearts of Iron at best. Well, they technically have New England in this one, but the CSA has New York and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and such, so yeah. Anyways, event reading time. I do this because, for internet reasons, I have to play on 480p tops, so I read all the events that are going to be relevant. I've never actually played Kaiser Redux, honestly. It any good? But yeah, event. To those not in the know, it might seem like the crisis in the United States came out of nowhere, but experts agree that this was a civil war years in the making. Since the collapse of the New York Stock Exchange in 1925, the economy of the United States had been sluggish and mired in deep recession. Now, the United States has collapsed into an all-out civil war between the supporters of the federal government, Combined Syndicates of America, the right-wing American Union State, and the remnants of democratic rule in the Pacific States of America. Volunteers are pouring in from around the world to support one faction or another, with some characterizing the bitter ideological conflict as simply part of a wider global clash of ideas. The destiny of America is at stake. Dun dun dun. I'll have to see if I can't find some volunteers to send over to the Union State, as I seem to remember they're more pro-Germany than the rest, so having them win would be kinda nice. And yeah, saying MacArthur is going to have a hard time is putting it lightly. And of course, it doesn't help that in Kaiserreich, Herbert Hoover was president for another 4 years. He probably didn't help things that much. Let's see. Over here. You two split off. And Union State. I have some mooks for you. In the meantime, let's go back to helping the Spanish kill other Spanish. And moving over to partial mobilization to get rid of most of those penalties. Do nothing was the best thing he did? Indeed. And I could be misremembering this, but didn't FDR get assassinated in the Kaiserreich timeline? I think so. I forget why. And the military coups continue. This time in Japan. Reports from Tokyo for the past few weeks have been scarce, but it appears now that Japanese democracy is dead. After years of infighting, scandals, and corruption among the political parties, radical restorationist officers launched a coup d'etat aiming to transform the country into an ultra-nationalist regime. Ultimately, it seems their efforts were for naught. Troops loyal to the government were able to launch a counter-coup and successfully crush the rebels. Yet this episode has shown without a doubt the party's weakness. Japan has effectively transformed into a military dictatorship with nationalism, corporatism, and militarism as guiding principles. Oh no. Yes. Japan is a military dictatorship. We've never seen that before, certainly.